Good morning. We're in a race to rebuild the global energy system, transitioning from hydrocarbon-based molecules to renewably generated electrons. This race may have started as a call to action to combat climate change, but today it's much more. This is about achieving energy security and national security for decades to come. It's about capturing the opportunity for massive US, EU, Middle East, Australian, and allied nations' industrial growth. It's about creating energy abundance around the globe. In the new global energy system, the ability to store energy is king. It's the oil of an electrified future, allowing us to harness and move electrons to when and where we need them. Historically, the ability to store energy has been completely dependent on the ability to access critical minerals. Today, China dominates the supply chain of batteries. It produces 80% of the world's cathodes and 89% of the world's anodes. The US currently produces 1%. Even more worryingly, China now controls 59% of the world's lithium supply, 68% of the world's battery-grade nickel supply, 73% of the world's cobalt supply, 93% of the world's manganese supply, and a full 99% of the world's graphite supply, a material that's required for every battery currently in an EV today. These are the critical minerals necessary to build today's batteries, with nickel, manganese, cobalt, or NMC chemistry being the global leader for high energy density storage. The emerging lower cost alternatives for EVs, lithium iron phosphate, or LFP, is no different. Today, 99% of LFP batteries are built in China, entirely dependent on graphite coming from China and with IP that's now mostly owned by Chinese companies. And simply put, you cannot buy an EV today without that battery going through China. Even a US gigafactory producing lithium-ion or LFP batteries fully depends on China providing access to those critical minerals. And in October 2023, China confirmed its willingness to put export controls on battery minerals, starting with graphite. The rules of competition have not changed for 2,500 years. When Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "When the adversary has the advantage, do not approach them, retreat and go to new ground." We are facing a global monopoly, and at no point in history has a monopoly been defeated by trying to replicate its strengths. We will not win the energy storage race by building better critical mineral supply chains. We will not win by manufacturing better batteries at larger quantities or lower cost. We will not win with any battery chemistry, including silicon anodes or solid state, that is dependent on critical minerals controlled by China. The only pathway to global leadership in energy storage is eliminating our dependence on critical minerals in the critical mineral supply chain entirely, not replicating it, eliminating it. That's our move to new ground. So what if I told you there is a battery leap that can move us not just to new ground, but to higher ground? On the Department of Energy's roadmap, the lithium-sulfur battery is meant to come after NMC, after silicon anodes, after solid-state batteries, as the next big leap in energy density. Lithium-sulfur is a sulfur cathode combined with a lithium metal anode and an electrolyte. Instead of relying on an exotic mix of critical minerals mined from all over the world, the battery has only 3 ingredients. First is sulfur, an abundant and ultra-low-cost byproduct of oil and gas, mining, refining, and chemicals industries found everywhere in the world, typically piled in mountains of yellow powder. Now, how low cost is this? So when we went to a sulfur facility in California to collect samples to run our lithium sulfur line on, the workers there actually threw 50-pound bags of sulfur into the back of our car. And we asked how much. They said, "Nah, just take it." So a sulfur cathode can hold 2 to 3 times the energy density of a lithium ion, enabling an ultra-lightweight battery, sulfur cathode, ultra-lightweight battery. The sulfur cathode has been known about for decades, but was not projected to be in the market for a number of years because of a critical material science challenge. The sulfur breaks down too quickly, limiting its rechargeability. And that's where the second ingredient comes in. Three-dimensional graphene is a material Lyten actually developed in 2015. It's sourced from permanently capturing carbon from natural gas and methane, the second most common greenhouse gas on the planet, and an element that can be found in every country, state, and city around the world. 3D graphene can be combined with the sulfur to minimize the degradation and for the first time enable a practical sulfur cathode cell to be built. The third ingredient, a lithium metal anode. Currently, lithium processing is indeed led by China, but the US and our allied nations actually have a secret weapon and a true advantage here. Lithium exists in brine form and subsurface formations geographically dispersed around the planet. If only there was a US industry that led the world in innovations to drill wells, to pull liquids out of the ground, to take out the valuable parts and pump the remaining liquids back into the ground, the exact skills needed to extract lithium from brines. And yes, the oil and gas industry and its technology is a leader here and is attempting to take a leadership position in allowing us to extract lithium at scale around the world. When you combine these three ingredients in a battery, you get a cell with the potential to deliver more than twice the energy density of a lithium-ion battery. But that's really just the start of what happens. You get an EV battery that weighs 73% less than an LFP equivalent battery for the same energy. You get a battery that weighs 53% less than an NMC battery, the current leader in vehicles today, and a battery that weighs 38% less than the future solid-state batteries that are being projected. You get a battery that completely disrupts the current supply chain, battery supply chain, eliminating the need for nickel, cobalt, and manganese from the cathode and graphite from the anode. You get a battery that can be locally sourced and manufactured here in the US or Canada or Australia or the Middle East or across the EU. And because of the simplified bill of materials, you get a battery that can be immediately compete on price, even with the 30-year running head start that lithium-ion has. You get a battery that can truly move us to higher ground. In June 2023, Lyten opened the first automated lithium-sulfur pilot manufacturing facility in the world in San Jose, California. And it produces cells in the exact same cylindrical and pouch format, shapes and sizes that power every EV today. Your Tesla is powered by 5,000 to 7,000 batteries that look something like this. You're actually welcome to come by our booth and see the batteries firsthand over during the break. The lithium-sulfur chemistry has more work to do before it's going to be ready for EVs, but in 2024, we'll begin delivering commercial battery cells well ahead of the Department of Energy projections because of this material science innovation. And we'll be delivering those cells for space, aerospace, drone, and defense applications this year, and we'll start delivering samples to auto OEMs in the coming months, working directly with some of our investors like Stellantis and FedEx. Actually, just this morning, a few hours ago, Lyten put out a press release on what is actually maybe the most potentially disruptive part of the lithium-sulfur battery. More disruptive than energy density, lighter weight, entirely local supply chain, and improved safety. We announced that we are now exceeding 90% manufacturing yields in our San Jose facility using standard lithium-ion equipment. The manufacturing line was actually built for lithium-ion cells. And in less than 6 weeks, we converted that line to lithium-sulfur for less than 2% of the capital cost. In other words, existing battery-making infrastructure around the world can be converted from lithium-ion to lithium-sulfur with almost no downtime and only a tiny cost, opening the door for rapid scale-up of lithium-sulfur. Battery manufacturing across the US and EU now has a credible pathway to completely cut its dependence on critical minerals, on the critical mineral supply chain, using the exact same battery manufacturing infrastructure that's already in place and already been invested in. Energy storage is the new oil. Entire industries in global energy security will be defined by access to it, just like access to oil has been tightly linked to economic growth and national security for the last century. Right now, we are faced with the reality that we need to move to higher ground. We cannot defeat a global monopoly by trying to replicate its strengths. Actions like tariffs and diversifying our supply chain are smart and absolutely necessary moves. They secure our defenses and buy time. But to go on the offensive and establish global leadership in energy storage and deliver clean energy abundance for the world, we must find higher ground. And that higher ground must eliminate energy storage dependence on critical minerals, not replicate, eliminate. Lithium sulfur is the technology. It completely disrupts the global critical minerals supply chain. It enables local manufacturing all over the world. It is inevitable. So now we need to do the hard work of taking the higher ground and taking it first, which will require speed and scale and capital. And many of you in the room are going to be part of that journey. Thank you.